Hey guys, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. My name is Crown, and today I'm going to read you some very interesting stories that I hope that you're gonna love. And now, without further ado, let's go!
I've been living in my house for about 5 years now. I bought it after getting a promotion at work, and while it's not the biggest or fanciest place, it's mine. The windows aren't new, but they're in perfectly good condition. I've had them checked during my annual home maintenance, and they're fine. In fact, my home inspector just last year told me they were high-quality installations that would easily last another decade with proper care. About 6 months ago, this window company started sending these teenage boys to my house. At first, it was just 1 or 2 visits a month. They'd come with their rehearsed speeches about how my windows needed urgent replacement and how their company offered the best deals in town. I later found out from my neighbor that they were targeting our entire neighborhood, especially homes that were more than 10 years old. I work from home as a software developer, so I'm usually around when they show up. Initially, I tried being nice about it. I'd listen to their pitch for a minute, then politely decline and ask for a business card. I thought maybe if I showed them I had their information, they'd stop coming back. I even looked up their company online and found dozens of complaints about their aggressive sales tactics and subpar installations. The visits started becoming more frequent. Different boys would show up, but they all had the same script. It got to the point where they were coming twice a week. I started getting annoyed, but I kept being polite because these were just teenagers trying to do their job. One of them even admitted to me that they were working on commission and had daily quotas to meet. Then, about a month ago, another teen showed up, but this time he had this middle-aged man with him. The moment I opened the door, I could tell this guy was different. He had this smug look on his face that just screamed, "I'm better than you." I later learned from another neighbor that this man was notorious in the area for his pushy sales tactics and had been reported to the Better Business Bureau multiple times. The teen immediately launched into his usual spiel about my windows looking old and their current special promotion. I tried to politely interrupt him to say I wasn't interested, but that's when the older man stepped forward with this condescending smile. He asked to speak with the man of the house in this pompous tone. When I questioned if he meant my husband, he confirmed that yes, he wanted to speak with my husband about this investment opportunity. He even had the nerve to add that these decisions were usually better discussed with the head of the household. The way he emphasized head of the household made my skin crawl. Now I'm not married, never have been. I'm single and proud of it. But something about his attitude, the way he assumed I needed a man to make decisions about my own house, just made my blood boil. That's when I decided to teach him a lesson. I put on my most solemn face and told them that my husband had died 2 weeks ago and that if they wanted to speak with him, they were welcome to attend his funeral tomorrow. The teenager turned pale, and the window boss started sputtering like a broken engine. He managed to stammer out an apology for my loss, but I wasn't done yet. I questioned his sincerity, pointing out how eager he'd been to dismiss me just moments ago. I could see the teenager looking increasingly uncomfortable, clearly wishing he could be anywhere else. The window boss grabbed the teenager's arm so fast you'd think my house was on fire. They practically ran back to their car. When they were getting in, I couldn't resist calling out one last thing. I told them that I owned this house, bought it myself with my own money from my own job, and suggested they try not to assume women need men to make their decisions for them. They drove off so fast they left tire marks on the street. It's been a month now, and I haven't seen a single window salesperson since. What's even better is that I found out through the neighborhood social media group that my little performance had spread like wildfire. Apparently, the teenager quit his job the next day and shared the story with other sales team members. The window boss's reputation in the area took quite a hit, and several other neighbors used my dead husband excuse when he showed up at their doors. I do feel a bit guilty about lying about a dead husband, but sometimes people need to learn their lesson the hard way. Besides, after months of harassment and that final display of sexism, I'd say they got what they deserved. The company has since stopped canvassing our neighborhood entirely, and I heard they've had to change their sales tactics to be less aggressive. After losing my mother 5 years ago, I inherited her passion for flowers along with her precious collection of rare seeds. She was a botanist who spent decades cultivating unique hybrid varieties. These flowers became my connection to her memory, and I've dedicated the past few years to creating a beautiful mini garden in our front yard. That's where all the trouble with my neighbor started. The woman next door, who I'll call Karen, moved in about 8 months ago. At first, she seemed friendly enough, constantly complimenting my garden and asking questions about the flowers. But things took a turn when she realized these weren't just ordinary plants you could buy at the local nursery. I noticed her watching me tend to my prized blue-purple hybrid roses one morning. These were especially important to me. They were the last successful hybrid my mother created before she passed. She started by complimenting the flowers, saying she'd never seen anything like them. When I thanked her, she immediately demanded that I give her some cuttings, insisting they would look perfect in her front yard. I had to refuse, explaining that these were unique hybrids and I don't share their cuttings. She wouldn't take no for an answer. She tried telling me I was being ridiculous and that they were just flowers. She even played the neighbor card, saying that good neighbors share with each other. I tried explaining again that these weren't ordinary flowers, that they had sentimental value, and that I had promised to protect them. That's when she accused me of being incredibly selfish and demanded to know what gave me the right to keep these flowers all to myself. That was just the beginning. Over the next few months, she tried everything from leaving passive-aggressive notes in my mailbox to telling other neighbors I was hoarding special plants. She even tried to convince the homeowners association that my garden violated some obscure rule, but that didn't work out for her. Things escalated last weekend. I was watering my flowers in the early evening when I heard a buzzing sound. Looking up, I saw a drone hovering right above my garden. At the controls was Karen's son, who had just turned 18 last month. He was standing at the edge of my property with a smirk on his face. I asked him politely to keep his drone away from my garden. He responded with typical teenage attitude, saying it was a free country and he could fly wherever he wanted. The drone kept getting closer and closer to my head. I tried to ignore it and continue watering, but then it started diving at me repeatedly. I threatened to call the police if he didn't stop. That's when Karen appeared from her yard, defending her son and saying he wasn't doing anything wrong. She even had the nerve to suggest that if I hadn't been so selfish with my precious flowers, they wouldn't have had to take matters into their own hands. The drone was now swooping dangerously close to my face. I could feel the wind from its propellers, and one particularly close pass actually cut my cheek. I was starting to panic when my husband heard the commotion and came running out of the house. My husband didn't hesitate. As the drone made another aggressive dive toward me, he grabbed the baseball bat we keep near the door for protection and swung. There was a satisfying crack as the bat connected with the drone, sending it crashing into our driveway in pieces. Karen immediately started screaming about how dare we destroy her drone, saying it cost over $1,000 and that she was calling the police. Her son joined in, threatening that we would pay for this. We could hear Karen on the phone with the police claiming we had violently attacked her son's drone for no reason. What Karen didn't know was that we had installed a doorbell camera after she started harassing us about the garden. It had captured everything: her son using the drone as a weapon, her encouraging him, and my husband acting in defense. When the police arrived, Karen put on quite a show, crying about how we were horrible neighbors who destroyed her poor son's expensive drone out of spite. Her performance quickly fell apart when we showed the officers the video footage. The officers were quick to point out that what they were seeing was assault with a weapon. They explained that her son was using the drone to attack me, and she was encouraging it. Karen tried to defend herself, claiming they were just flying the drone, but the officers shut that down immediately. They reminded her that her son was 18, which made him an adult, and this could be considered aggravated assault. The officers took statements from everyone involved. Karen and her son both ended up being arrested, him for assault with a weapon and her for conspiracy and inciting violence. When they were being led to the police cars, Karen was still screaming about her drone in my flowers. The district attorney decided to press charges, and both Karen and her son are now facing serious legal consequences. They're also under a restraining order and can't come within 50 feet of our property. Karen's husband, who was away on a business trip during all this, came to apologize profusely when he returned. He is now filing for divorce, and from what I hear, they're putting their house up for sale. My garden is still thriving, and now I can tend to it in peace. The cut on my cheek healed, but I did get some very expensive security cameras installed around the property just in case. My wife and I had been trying for a baby for 3 years. After 2 miscarriages and countless disappointments, we finally got the news we'd been praying for. The pregnancy test was positive, and this time, everything was progressing perfectly. My wife had been working as a senior marketing analyst for this company based in Colorado for about 2.5 years. We live in Arizona, and the remote work setup had been perfect for us. When she first got the job, they made a big deal about being family-friendly and having great benefits. The employee handbook had clear policies about maternity leave and all the procedures you needed to follow. My wife did everything by the book. She told her supervisor about the pregnancy early in December, submitted all the Family and Medical Leave Act paperwork well in advance, and was set to begin her maternity leave on January 2nd. Everything seemed fine until we heard rumors about our company being acquired by a larger corporation. People started getting nervous, but my wife's supervisor tried to calm her fears by assuring her that her position was essential to the team and that she shouldn't worry about the acquisition. Then, just a few days after she submitted her leave paperwork, she got a meeting invitation from Human Resources. They said they needed to discuss some organizational changes. My wife joined the video call, expecting it to be about the acquisition transition. Instead, she was met with 3 straight-faced executives. The Human Resources representative didn't waste any time. They told her that due to recent organizational restructuring, they were terminating her position effective immediately. When my wife expressed her confusion and mentioned her upcoming maternity leave, they simply stated that the decision was purely business-related and that she'd receive 2 weeks of severance pay. One of the corporate executives tried to soften the blow by explaining that they were streamlining operations following the acquisition, and that these decisions were never easy. When my wife pointed out that no one else in her department was being let go, the Human Resources representative coldly replied that they couldn't discuss other employees' status and that she would receive termination documents via email shortly. My wife called me immediately after the meeting crying. I rushed home from work to be with her. The termination documents arrived an hour later, citing organizational restructuring as the reason, but we knew better. They were trying to avoid paying for her maternity leave. I started researching our options and found out about the Pregnancy Discrimination Act. We contacted a labor lawyer who specialized in pregnancy discrimination cases. The lawyer reviewed our case and confidently told us that what they did was textbook discrimination, pointing out that the timing alone was suspicious. My wife expressed that she just wanted justice and felt they shouldn't be allowed to treat people this way. The lawyer agreed and told us we had a strong case, suggesting that they draft a letter to the company first. The lawyer's letter was detailed and pointed out all the violations. The response came surprisingly quickly, with Human Resources reaching out to discuss a resolution. They offered 6 months of severance pay, full maternity leave benefits, and a written apology. But our lawyer advised that given the clear discrimination and emotional distress, we should push for more. We ended up settling for a year's salary, full benefits through the end of the year, and a binding agreement that they would revise their policies around pregnancy leave. The corporate executive who pushed for these targeted layoffs got investigated by the board. We later heard through former co-workers that 5 other pregnant employees had been restructured out in different departments over the past year. Our case opened the floodgates and they all came forward. The company ended up facing a class action lawsuit. The executive who orchestrated these discriminatory practices was forced to resign. She's now having trouble finding another executive position because no company wants to risk hiring someone with a history of discrimination cases. My wife found a better job with a truly family-friendly company 2 months after our baby was born. They even offered better maternity benefits than her previous employer. I've always been passionate about animal rescue, especially birds. After volunteering at a local bird sanctuary for 5 years, I finally felt ready to adopt one myself. That's when I met my African gray parrot. She was in terrible shape when I first saw her. Feathers plucked out from stress, undernourished, and absolutely terrified of human contact. The previous owners had kept her in a tiny cage in their garage for 3 years, barely interacting with her except to throw some seeds in once a day. It took months of patience and dedication to help her recover. I spent hours just sitting near her cage, talking softly, letting her get used to my presence. Gradually, she started responding to my voice. After 6 months, she finally let me hand feed her. It was a breakthrough moment that brought tears to my eyes. Now, 2 years later, she's completely transformed. Her feathers have grown back beautifully, and she's become this incredibly social, loving creature. She's especially fond of Disney songs, something we discovered by accident when I was humming Under the Sea while cleaning her cage. She started bobbing her head and making little chirping sounds along with the tune. Since then, it's become our special thing. I thought I could trust my closest friend with my bird. She'd been there through the whole rehabilitation process and seemed to understand how special my bond with my African gray was. She would come over often, and my bird absolutely adored her. Sometimes she'd take out her phone to record our Disney sing-alongs, which I didn't mind because I thought she was just capturing a cute moment. Then last week, while looking for an old video of a night out with a friend who recently passed away, I stumbled upon something that made my blood boil. On my friend's YouTube channel, there were 6 videos of my bird singing, each with thousands of views and monetization enabled. What made it worse was discovering she had edited the videos to make it seem like she was the bird's owner, even adding captions like "My talented African gray" and "Another day with my singing beauty." When I confronted her about uploading videos of my bird without my permission, she brushed it off, excitedly telling me about how adorable people thought they were and bragging about one video getting over 50,000 views. I tried explaining that permission was the real issue here, but she dismissed my concerns entirely. She kept insisting it wasn't a big deal, saying it was just a bird singing and everyone thought it was cute. I reminded her about what my bird had been through and told her she wasn't just content for her channel. She accused me of being too sensitive, arguing that it wasn't like she was exploiting a child, just posting harmless videos. When I pointed out that if the videos were so harmless she should have told me about them, she stumbled over her words, weakly claiming she didn't think it was important. I demanded she take the videos down, but she flat out refused, focusing instead on how much engagement the videos were getting and how much people loved them. Finally, I told her she wasn't welcome in my house anymore since I couldn't trust her. Instead of understanding my position, she went around telling our friend group that I was being ridiculous. While most supported my stance, a few sided with her, saying I was overreacting about just a bird. She even started making social media posts about how some people get too attached to their pets and need to learn to share their joy with the world. I decided to take action. I contacted YouTube directly, explaining the situation and providing proof of ownership of my bird through adoption papers and vet records. Within days, all 6 videos were removed for copyright infringement. My friend lost the revenue she'd earned from them, and her channel got a strike. She tried calling me in a fury about the takedown, but I blocked her number. Then she started showing up at my house unannounced, claiming she just wanted to see the bird she helped make famous. I had to threaten to call the police before she finally stopped coming by. My other friends told me she's been complaining about losing her content and how I ruined her chances of becoming a successful pet content creator. She had apparently been planning to start a whole series about her African gray. The whole experience made me realize how some people can view animals as nothing more than tools for their own gain. I've since installed security cameras around my house and become much more careful about who I let into our lives. Several of our mutual friends have stopped talking to her after learning about how she tried to claim my bird as her own in the videos. My African Grey is now happier than ever, still singing her Disney tunes, but only for people who truly appreciate her for who she is, not for the views she can generate. She's even learned a new song recently, "You've Got a Friend in Me" from Toy Story. The irony isn't lost on me, but at least now I know who our real friends are. And now we have reached the end of today's stories. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.